Hello and welcome to another episode of Issuer Update. I'm Dimitri Giller, and joining me today is Lewis Bateman, CEO of SPIR Blockchain Capital, ticker symbol SPIR. Lewis, welcome.
Dimitri, thank you. Appreciate the interest and call.
Great. So let's get started. Can you start by giving us an overview of SPIR Blockchain Capital and its core mission?
Yeah, thank you. SPIR Blockchain has been around now for a few years. We're a public company on the CSE. We were initially brought out in September of 2022. I became the CEO in November of 2022. And our core value proposition is we are a leading blockchain infrastructure and proxy to the underlying digital asset space. And we're excited for the future. There's been a lot of ups and downs to the future. But we do realize there's a real opportunity for investors to participate, and having it in a public structure like ourselves really gives the confidence to investors to invest in a business like ours.
Right. So what sets Spirit apart from other blockchain investment firms?
So Spirit is a holding company here in Canada, but a majority of our business, our operating business and our asset management business, they're actually located in Zug, Switzerland. Which actually has really clearly defined digital asset roles and responsibilities. There's clearly defined rule sets. And this gives us a real strong opportunity because of their strong banking infrastructure, strong historical understanding of capital markets, and a really defined rule set that we can operate under.
Switching gears a little bit, there was a recent acquisition. So Spirit recently acquired Dogecoin Portfolio Holding Corp. Can you walk us through the strategic thinking behind this acquisition?
Yeah, so we are an investment corporation. So we look at acquisitions and mergers and how does these businesses help us from a growth perspective. And Doge and Dogecoin Holding Company is really one of those critical opportunities. It's an underserved blockchain. It was typically a meme coin in the historical past. But there's real utility behind it from a micropayments perspective, from a use case perspective. It's more and more being developed compared to some of the other protocols and blockchains that are out there in the marketplace. And we really feel that transaction was going to be meaningful to us for twofold. One, gives us a real insight to the community. It allows us to utilize their services and the holdings as a natural proxy, and people are looking for a corporate proxy to that underlying holdings. But more importantly, it allows us to develop, as we are planning on developing, a leading tokenized platform. And this is where we are fundamentally moving towards that we can provide to the marketplace.
And what specific assets were acquired?
So mainly it was the holding company itself, which had some cash, but it also had some underlying service agreements that were taking hold and some proprietary relationships.
And the announcement also mentioned some early stage blockchain technology, intellectual property.
Yes.
Can you share any details on that development?
Yeah, so that, like I said, the contractual relationships that they had established prior to us taking over, the relationship of understanding from a development cycle perspective. These are things that we're going to roll into our overall development cycle and our own building out of our own protocol and blockchain. And it will allow for us also to build out our application for our tokenized platform. So all of that is going to be integrated under our Spirit Link domain and offering.
Where does this position Spirit in the Dogecoin ecosystem?
Well, we really are the leading proxy to Dogecoin from a corporate public company perspective right away. What we're going to do with Doge holdings and the underlying holding of that digital asset is we're also going to formulate a yield behind of it. So this gives us an opportunity not only to proxy the Dogecoin on our balance sheet, we're also able to monetize that balance sheet with yield and income. Mm-hmm. Fundamentally, from there, we can create funds, whether it be ETPs or structured products. That will be a natural evolution to where we're seeing the marketplace, which is those traditional funds are now being tokenized and serviced on a digital perspective. So it's a real kind of top of funnel where we as a public company can give an understanding to the marketplace and be properly registered with regulatory compliance and auditability. Then we're holding those assets and monetizing those assets, affirming those assets from an understanding perspective. And then ultimately, our hope is that those people that are shareholders and utilizing our services will actually go into our service level relationship under our platform itself as an asset manager. And so that we become more than just the utility of the proxy, but the actual servicing of the community itself.
Okay, so you mentioned yield. Spirit is involved in lending, staking, and mining. How do these activities work together to create value?
So each one of those, whether it be lending it out and servicing and getting back a form of counterparty receivables, staking is obviously from a facilitation where we can stake the underlying assets and then get a form of yield. There's even streaming and royalties that we can get. These are all just monetary aspects that we can gain, which obviously creates shareholder value. And we will continue to do that. Where we structured a deal with EOS a while ago. We have a leading relationship with EOS. We have a leading relationship with Doge, and we're looking at several other digital assets where we can be that natural proxy and a risk mitigated servicing offering of treasuries. And ultimately, those treasuries can roll into those funds that we're creating from a seeding perspective and from a use case perspective. And then ultimately, the clients would want to maybe buy and hold those underlying assets from us as a service.
So speaking of Dogecoin and EOS and the overall crypto market, it can be highly volatile. How do these fluctuations impact Spirit's business model and strategy?
Well, every sector has volatility in it, depending on what day and what week of the month it is. And certainly we are in a volatile time, both macro and from a macro perspective. I've been in the industry for over 25 years, and I've seen lots of bubbles and also lots of upturns and downturns. I think what we do say to ourselves is that we are creating a value proposition over the long term. We know that we are bringing value on our treasury perspective of holding the digital assets on behalf of clients as a shareholder, but ultimately building an ecosystem and a facilitation under our asset management development. And what does that give? It really does normalize or risk mitigate those high highs and those low lows. And I think that is really the differentiator that we're seeing ourselves in from a marketplace perspective. If you look at some of the other competing offerings out there, they're just a buy and hold strategy. We're actually servicing the strategy with technology development and true asset management down the line.
And switching gears a little bit, recently in the news, there was a hacking event in the crypto space. Is this a risk for Spirit?
Look, there's always opportunities for cyber hacks. No company in the world is not looked upon. There's insurance behind that, right? That you can get. A lot of these kind of hacks that we're seeing in the digital space, they're not hacks on the blockchain themselves, right? The blockchain really does have an ability to kind of assert and understand where the assets are. What the real issue is that people are mimicking, right, or utilizing almost phishing or dupe accounts and supplementing that and taking hold of other people's information. If people act appropriately and have proper protocols and processes and facilitation, they're limited. And we take that side very seriously, as every other, public company and private company in the digital space do. Our hope is that we do the right things. We've got a tenure in this space. We have a knowledge of what to do. And we'll be very diligent in making sure that we have the safeguards to appropriately manage our assets. We're also partnered, right, and vendored services with the leading relationships that have the same kind of governance and policies and procedures that I think are required to protect the shareholders' value and interests in this space.
Okay, next group of questions. We're just going to zoom out a little bit and talk about the long-term strategy. What's the next major milestone investors should be looking out for in 2025?
Well, it's going to be our launching of our funds for sure, both in a traditional manner, but also digitizing those assets. So that's our fundamental next step. And then also our launch of our actual platform, our tokenized platform. Those are the two leading things that will generate serious income and revenues for our business. We really are pushing towards that in the near term, and it solidifies us from a long-term perspective as an overall business.
Okay. And in the long term as well, do you see the regulatory landscape impacting Spirit's business model?
Look, regulatory landscape is a very dynamic one, both domestically here in Canada, but also internationally. Every day there's new rule sets and new governance that are being brought upon. I think we are taking a leading position. I think we have a real understanding of the regulatory side, both domestically and internationally. I don't have an issue working with regulators. I think it's an appropriate requirement. I just want to make sure that they're streamlined and that they allow for scalability of businesses. That's my bigger issue with a lot of regulations that are brought upon us. And I think we're trying to take a lot of the traditional rule sets that have been in place for a number of years and saying, okay, where can we get efficiencies? Where can we get scalability? And where can we work with regulators? I don't think there needs to be a level of regulators on one side of the fence and operators on the other side of the fence. I think we can work in cooperation and being transparent and trusting that the process can have a fair dialogue. And if we do that, I think we can get farther ahead than being adversarial.
Right. Okay, final question. Where do you see Spirit Blockchain in the next 3 to 5 years?
I think we can be a leading tokenized platform with lots of assets under management and under custody, and really servicing the evolution in the marketplace. We're seeing a real natural evolution with some of the largest financial institutions that are digitizing assets. And we're going to be part of that. I think the real opportunity is that we're solely focused on this. We're not just running a traditional business. We're actually focused directly into the tokenization of real world assets and funds. And that opportunity from a scale perspective of size of market is massive. And we can be a real leader going forward.
Fantastic. Lewis, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate the time as well. And I look forward to having more conversations in the future.
Great. And joining me today was Lewis Bateman, CEO of Spirit Blockchain Capital. For more information, please visit thecsc.com and look up ticker symbol SPIR. Thank you and take care.